The Apache widow invited the breeder over on Christmas Eve, and the night ended up in the same bed. It was a cold December evening, and the small town was wrapped in a gentle layer of snow. The streets were quiet, lit by the warm glow of street lamps reflecting off the snowflakes. Children's laughter could be heard in the distance, and the smell of freshly baked cookies and pine from Christmas trees filled the air. In one of the old, wooden houses on the edge of town lived a woman named Maria. She was known by the neighbors as the kind and gentle widow, always ready with a smile and a helping hand. Her husband had passed away many years ago, and since then she had lived alone, finding comfort in simple routines and the warmth of her home. Maria's house was cozy, with a fireplace that always seemed to burn bright and cheerful. The walls were decorated with family pictures and handmade ornaments, reminders of happy times. This Christmas Eve, she had decided to prepare a special dinner, not only for herself, but for a visitor she had recently come to know. His name was Thomas, a local breeder who lived on the outskirts of town. He was quiet and kind, always focused on his work with animals, but over the past few weeks, Maria and Thomas had grown closer. They had shared small conversations, walks in the nearby fields, and a mutual love for simple, peaceful moments. As the evening approached, Maria prepared the house with extra care. She hung a few twinkling lights around the windows and placed a small wreath on the door. Inside, the table was set with the finest dishes she owned, carefully arranged with candles, napkins, and a small centerpiece made of holly and pine cones. The smell of roasted vegetables, bread, and a warm pie filled the air. She could hear the faint jingling of bells from the nearby town square where children were singing carols. It made her heart feel lighter, reminding her that even in times of solitude, the world was still full of warmth and joy. When Thomas arrived, he carried a small gift wrapped in bright paper, and a shy smile spread across his face. Maria greeted him warmly, and together they stepped inside the house, brushing the cold from their coats. They sat by the fire, sipping hot cocoa as they exchanged stories from their past. Maria spoke of her husband, of the farm she had once tended, and of the friends she had lost and kept over the years. Thomas shared tales of his work with animals, of the challenges of caring for them, and the quiet satisfaction he felt when he saw them thrive. Each story was met with laughter, understanding, and sometimes a comfortable silence, the kind that makes people feel safe with one another. As the night progressed, they moved to the dining table. The warm meal brought comfort to their hearts, and conversation flowed easily. They talked about the traditions they loved, the small joys of life, and the hope for the future. Maria noticed how Thomas' eyes sparkled when he spoke about his animals, and Thomas admired Maria's kindness and the way she made everything around her feel alive and welcoming. They shared memories of past Christmases, of family gatherings, and of quiet moments that had left lasting impressions. It was a simple evening, but it held a kind of magic that only rare connections can bring. After dinner, they decided to sit by the fire again. The wind howled softly outside, and the snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in white. Maria and Thomas talked for hours, sharing dreams, fears, and quiet hopes. They realized how rare it was to find someone who truly understood them, someone who could make a cold evening feel warm and safe. As the clock approached midnight, the house seemed to glow even brighter, the fire crackling like it wanted to join in their conversation. Before leaving, Thomas helped Maria tidy up, and they walked together to the doorway. They exchanged a warm handshake and a friendly hug, both feeling a quiet connection that neither of them had expected. Maria closed the door slowly, her heart filled with a mix of happiness and anticipation. She knew that this Christmas Eve would be remembered, not for grand events or flashy celebrations, but for the simple, meaningful connection they had shared. It was a night of warmth, trust, and the quiet beauty of two lives touching in a genuine, heartfelt way. As she prepared for bed, Maria thought about the evening. She smiled, knowing that the small gestures, the shared stories, and the gentle company had made this Christmas Eve special. Outside, the snow continued to fall silently, covering the world in peace, and inside, Maria felt a quiet hope that this connection, simple yet profound, could grow into something even more meaningful with time. The morning after that quiet Christmas Eve, Maria woke up to the soft light of the sun peeking through her frosted windows. The world outside was still covered in a thick layer of snow, making everything look calm, bright, and magical. She took a deep breath and felt the warmth of her home around her. The fire had gone out during the night, but the house still smelled faintly of the dinner, and the cinnamon from the pie she had baked. For a moment, she just sat by the window, watching the tiny snowflakes drift down and thought about the evening before. The memories of laughter, stories, and quiet moments with Thomas brought a soft smile to her face. She realized that her life, which had been quiet and simple for many years, had gained a new sense of hope. After a quick breakfast, Maria decided to go outside for a short walk in the snow. She wrapped herself in a thick scarf and warm gloves and carefully stepped into the crisp, white world. The snow crunched under her boots, and the air was fresh and cold, filling her lungs with energy. As she walked through the small town, she noticed neighbors greeting each other warmly, children building snowmen, and the soft sound of sleigh bells in the distance. Even the simple act of walking outside seemed magical, as if the snow had covered all worries and brought a sense of calm to everyone. Later that morning, there was a gentle knock at Maria's door. She opened it to see Thomas standing there, holding a small basket filled with bread, fruits, and homemade treats. His cheeks were rosy from the cold, and his smile was warm and kind. "Good morning, Maria," he said softly. "I thought you might like a little something for breakfast." Maria's heart lifted. It wasn't just the basket, it was the thoughtfulness behind it. She invited him inside, and together they sat at the table, sharing simple food and conversation. The way Thomas listened so attentively, asking questions and remembering little details, made Maria feel truly valued and seen. After breakfast, Thomas suggested they take a walk together to see the nearby woods, which were especially beautiful after the snowfall. Maria agreed, excited by the idea of spending more time with him. They dressed warmly, with thick coats and scarves, and stepped out into the sparkling winter world. As they walked, they talked about everything and nothing at the same time, about the beauty of the snow, their childhood memories, and the small joys they had discovered in life. Thomas pointed out footprints of animals in the snow, sharing his knowledge about their habits, which fascinated Maria. She listened with interest, asking questions and laughing at his funny stories about mischievous animals. The woods were quiet and serene, the snow muffling every sound except for their footsteps and occasional bird songs. Sunlight filtered through the branches, creating patterns on the snow that seemed almost magical. They found a small clearing with a frozen pond, and Thomas suggested they sit on a nearby bench. They shared a thermos of warm tea, and Maria felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. The quiet connection between them grew stronger, not through grand gestures but through simple presence and shared moments. They didn't need to talk all the time. Sometimes the silence itself was comforting, like a blanket around them. As the day went on, they walked back toward the town, stopping occasionally to help children build snowmen or to admire the intricate icicles hanging from rooftops. Maria noticed how gentle Thomas was with everyone he met, always polite, careful, and considerate. She felt proud to know someone so kind and noticed how easy it was to be herself around him. There was no need to pretend or hide anything. The trust they were building was natural and effortless. When they returned to Maria's house, the afternoon sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting a golden glow through the windows. Maria suggested they sit by the fire, and Thomas agreed. They talked more about their dreams and plans. Maria shared her wish to one day travel to the mountains she had loved in her youth, and Thomas spoke about the improvements he hoped to make to his farm to care better for the animals. They realized that their lives, though different, complemented each other in small ways. Thomas' patience and calm matched Maria's warmth and optimism, and together they felt stronger, more hopeful, and understood. In the evening, Maria decided to bake some cookies. She invited Thomas to help, and they worked side by side in the kitchen. Flour dusted the countertops, and sometimes their hands accidentally touched, causing them both to laugh. They shared stories of family traditions, the fun and chaos of past Christmases, and their favorite childhood memories. It was a simple activity, yet it created a bond that went beyond words. Maria noticed how Thomas' presence made even ordinary tasks enjoyable, and Thomas felt the same. He had never met anyone who made the small moments feel so significant. As night approached, the snow had started to fall again, softer this time, like a gentle blanket covering the world. Maria and Thomas stood by the window, watching the quiet town and listening to the soft hum of the wind. The calmness of the night, combined with the warmth inside the house, gave them a sense of safety and comfort. They talked quietly about the past year, the challenges they had faced, and the little joys they had discovered. Both realized that happiness often came not from big events but from small, meaningful connections and shared moments. Before Thomas left, Maria walked him to the door. They exchanged a friendly hug, a gesture full of warmth and trust. Maria felt a lightness in her heart, a feeling that this was the beginning of something lasting, a friendship and connection that could grow deeper with time. Thomas promised to visit again soon, and Maria smiled, already looking forward to it. As she closed the door, she reflected on the day. It had been simple, quiet, and full of ordinary tasks, yet every moment had been enriched by the presence of someone who cared. Maria then spent the rest of the evening by the fire, thinking about how her life had begun to change in subtle ways. She realized that happiness didn't need to come from extraordinary events. It could grow from small gestures, shared laughter, quiet conversations, and the comfort of companionship. That night she went to bed feeling lighter, more hopeful, and grateful for the unexpected warmth that had entered her life. Outside, the snow continued to fall gently, covering the town in a soft, peaceful blanket, while inside, Maria felt the quiet magic of a heart opening to new possibilities. The following days after Christmas were cold but bright, and Maria felt a gentle excitement in her heart. The snow continued to cover the town in white, and each morning she would wake to a sparkling world outside her window. Life had started to feel a little lighter, as if the small connection she had begun with Thomas was gradually bringing warmth into her quiet days. Even simple routines like making breakfast, tidying the house, or tending to her small garden in pots by the window felt more cheerful. One morning, Maria received a note slipped under her door. It was from Thomas, written in neat, careful handwriting. "Good morning, Maria," it began. "I was thinking of visiting your favorite park this weekend. Would you like to join me for a walk? I thought we could bring some warm drinks and enjoy the fresh air together." Maria smiled, her heart skipping a beat. She quickly wrote back, saying she would love to go. The anticipation of spending another day with Thomas brought a spark to her usual calm routine. On the day of their walk, Maria prepared a small basket filled with pastries, a thermos of hot tea, and a few blankets in case they decided to sit outdoors. She dressed warmly, putting on her favorite scarf and coat, and stepped outside into the crisp air. Snowflakes danced softly around her as she made her way to Thomas' farm. Thomas was waiting at the gate, smiling as he saw her approach. "Good morning," he said warmly. "I thought we could explore the frozen pond, and then maybe take the path by the old oak tree." Maria laughed softly, feeling a sense of comfort and excitement in his company. As they walked together, the quiet woods and snow-covered fields seemed even more magical than before. Thomas pointed out tiny animal tracks in the snow, and Maria tried to guess which animal had left them. They laughed when her guesses were far off, and Thomas shared gentle stories about the animals he had cared for over the years. The sunlight sparkled on the snow, and the world seemed peaceful and untouched. Maria noticed how easy it was to talk to Thomas, how natural their conversation felt, and how each shared moment seemed to deepen the sense of trust between them. They reached the frozen pond, which glimmered under the afternoon sun. Thomas spread a blanket on the snow nearby, and they sat together, sipping the warm tea Maria had brought. The silence between them was comforting, not awkward. It was filled with a quiet understanding. Maria found herself sharing stories she had never told anyone, memories of her childhood, moments of happiness with her late husband, and the small lessons life had taught her. Thomas listened with patience, never interrupting, and sometimes he shared his own reflections, giving Maria a glimpse into his gentle, thoughtful nature. As the afternoon went on, Thomas suggested they take a walk to the old oak tree, a large, ancient tree at the edge of the park that had stood for generations. They walked slowly, enjoying the crunch of snow under their boots and the occasional chirping of winter birds. Along the way, they noticed little details they had missed before. The way the sunlight reflected off icicles hanging from branches, the tracks of a fox disappearing into the woods, and the quiet beauty of the forest in winter. Maria felt a sense of wonder she hadn't felt in a long time. The world felt alive, and sharing it with Thomas made it even more special. When they reached the oak tree, they paused to admire its grandeur. Its branches were bare, yet its presence was strong and comforting. Thomas shared a story about the history of the tree and how townspeople had used it as a meeting place for generations. Maria listened intently, fascinated by his knowledge and the way he appreciated the simple wonders of life. They spread the blanket again beneath the tree, enjoying more tea and a few treats. Maria noticed that the quiet companionship felt more meaningful than any grand celebration could. It wasn't about what they did, but about being present with each other, sharing the same space and enjoying the little moments. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Thomas suggested they walk back slowly. Maria agreed, savoring the last moments of daylight. Along the way, they discussed small dreams for the future, places they hoped to visit, activities they wanted to try, and goals they wished to achieve. Thomas spoke about improving his farm and expanding his work with animals, and Maria shared her wish to travel to the mountains she loved in her youth. They discovered that, despite their different lives, their dreams were surprisingly aligned. Both valued patience, nature, kindness, and the small joys of everyday life. Back at Maria's house, the evening air was chilly, and their cheeks were rosy from the cold walk. Maria prepared a simple dinner while Thomas helped clear the snow from the porch. They laughed together as they carried dishes inside, enjoying the comfortable rhythm of working side by side. The house felt warm and welcoming, and Maria realized that these ordinary tasks, done together, had a kind of quiet magic. Thomas admired how Maria managed her home and life with care and patience, and Maria appreciated Thomas' calm, thoughtful presence that seemed to make everything easier and more joyful. After dinner, they sat by the fire again. The fire crackled softly, and the shadows danced on the walls. Maria pulled out an old photo album and began to show Thomas pictures of her family, old friends, and special moments she had captured over the years. Thomas listened attentively, asking questions and sharing his thoughts. He talked about the animals he had raised, the small victories, and the challenges, showing Maria the same openness and honesty she had shared with him. It was a simple exchange, yet it deepened their bond, creating trust and understanding that went beyond words. Before leaving that evening, Thomas helped Maria tidy up once more. They walked to the doorway, exchanging a warm handshake and a friendly hug, and Maria felt a sense of calm happiness. She realized that she had grown to rely on these moments, on the simple joy of being with someone who understood and appreciated her. Thomas promised to visit again soon, and she felt her heart lift at the thought. As she closed the door, she reflected on the day. It had been ordinary in many ways, walking, talking, sharing tea, but every moment had been meaningful because it had been shared. The warmth of human connection, trust, and gentle companionship had begun to fill a space in her heart that she hadn't realized was empty. That night, Maria went to bed feeling lighter, content, and quietly hopeful. The snow continued to fall outside, covering the world in a peaceful, soft blanket. Inside, Maria felt a sense of comfort and joy she hadn't felt in years. She thought about the small gestures, the laughter, the stories, and the silent moments shared with Thomas. She realized that life's happiness often came not from grand events, but from small, meaningful connections that grew over time. As she drifted off to sleep, Maria felt a sense of anticipation for the days to come, knowing that her life had begun to change in gentle, beautiful ways. Winter began to settle more deeply into the town, and the days grew shorter, with a quiet hush covering the streets and fields. Maria woke each morning to the soft glow of frost-covered windows and the quiet stillness of her home. She found herself thinking often about Thomas, remembering the walks, the conversations, and the simple, shared moments that had begun to feel like a new chapter in her life. Each day she noticed small changes in herself, more warmth in her smile, a lighter step as she moved around the house, and a sense of excitement for the days ahead. One morning, as Maria prepared her breakfast, there was a gentle knock at the door. To her delight, Thomas was standing there with a small bundle of firewood, wrapped carefully with twine. "Good morning, Maria," he said, his voice calm and friendly. "I thought you might like some extra wood for the fireplace today. It's cold outside and I want to make sure you stay warm." Maria smiled warmly, feeling the quiet kindness behind his gesture. She invited him in, and together they stacked the firewood by the hearth. The crackle of the fireplace soon filled the room with warmth, and the comforting smell of burning wood seemed to blend with the soft aroma of the breakfast she had prepared. After breakfast, Thomas suggested that they go for a short ride in his small sleigh through the nearby fields. Maria had never been on a sleigh ride before, and the idea excited her. They bundled up warmly, with scarves wrapped tightly around their necks and gloves on their hands, and stepped into the crisp morning air. The sun glinted off the snow, creating a sparkling, almost magical world around them. As the sleigh moved slowly across the fields, they laughed at the sound of the runners gliding over the snow, and at the sight of snow flying up behind them. Maria realized how refreshing it was to be outside, moving with the rhythm of nature, and sharing the experience with someone who truly appreciated it as much as she did. During the ride, they spoke about their childhood memories. Maria shared stories of the winter holidays she had spent with her family, the small traditions that had brought her joy, and the playful moments that had made her childhood special. Thomas talked about his upbringing on the farm, the challenges of caring for animals, and the simple pleasures of life that had shaped him into the thoughtful person he had become. Maria found herself laughing often, captivated by his gentle humor and the way he found delight in even the smallest things. She noticed how comfortable and easy their conversations had become, and how natural it was to spend time together without any need for pretense. After the ride, they returned to Maria's home, cheeks rosy from the cold, and spent some time in the kitchen preparing a light lunch. Maria enjoyed seeing Thomas in a different setting, helping her chop vegetables and stir soups. They talked about their plans for the rest of winter, discussing small projects, such as decorating the house, preparing meals, or caring for Thomas' animals during the cold season. Each suggestion was met with thoughtful consideration, and their dialogue showed a shared sense of responsibility and respect. Even the ordinary tasks were filled with laughter and warmth, and Maria felt that these moments of companionship were slowly becoming the most cherished parts of her days. In the afternoon, Maria suggested they read together by the fireplace. She had an old collection of short stories, and Thomas seemed delighted by the idea. They took turns reading aloud, laughing at the funny parts and pausing to discuss the story's lessons or the emotions they evoked. Maria felt a deep sense of comfort in these quiet hours, realizing that the simple act of sharing a story could create a sense of connection stronger than any grand event. Thomas, too, appeared to appreciate the peacefulness of the moment, enjoying the warmth of the fire, the sound of Maria's voice, and the calm rhythm of the day. As evening approached, Maria had an idea to bake a small batch of bread together. They worked side by side in the kitchen, flour dusting the counters and occasionally their hands brushing, causing smiles and laughter. The smell of fresh bread soon filled the house, and Maria felt a quiet pride in the effort they had put together. Thomas complimented her skills in the kitchen, and Maria appreciated his gentle encouragement and support. These small, shared experiences had become a way to deepen their bond, and she realized that happiness could grow quietly, nurtured by simple acts of cooperation and care. Later that evening, they decided to sit by the fire once more. The room was warm, the snow outside had begun to fall lightly again, and the quiet made their conversation feel more intimate. Maria shared her thoughts about the year behind them, reflecting on the challenges she had faced and the small joys that had made life meaningful. Thomas shared his hopes for the future, speaking about plans for the farm, his animals, and the dreams he had quietly held for many years. They found that even though their lives were different, they shared similar values: kindness, patience, and a deep appreciation for the simple pleasures of life. As the night grew colder outside, Thomas helped Maria prepare a small corner with blankets and cushions by the fire. They sat together, talking softly, watching the flames flicker, and enjoying the quiet warmth. Maria realized that these moments were teaching her something new about life, that companionship and understanding could create a sense of peace stronger than any material comfort. Thomas' presence had become a source of strength and calm, a quiet reminder that life could be joyful even in its simplest forms. Before leaving that night, Thomas walked Maria to the doorway. They exchanged a warm, friendly hug, and Maria felt the satisfaction of a day well spent, filled with meaningful connection and laughter. She closed the door slowly, reflecting on how her days had started to change in ways she had never expected. Each interaction, each shared story, and each small act of care had begun to weave a new chapter in her life, one that felt hopeful, comforting, and full of quiet joy. That night, Maria went to bed with a feeling of contentment she had not experienced in many years. The snow continued to fall softly outside, covering the world in a gentle, peaceful blanket. Inside, her home glowed with warmth and light, a reflection of the warmth she felt in her heart. She thought about the laughter, the walks, the shared meals, and the quiet companionship she had experienced with Thomas. Every moment had added something meaningful to her life, and she knew that the bond they were creating was built on trust, understanding, and genuine care. As she drifted off to sleep, Maria felt grateful for the gentle ways her life had begun to change. She understood that happiness could grow slowly, nurtured by small gestures, shared experiences, and the comforting presence of someone who truly listened and cared. She looked forward to the coming days, the quiet moments, and the possibility of more adventures with Thomas. Outside, the snow continued to fall, soft and unbroken, while inside, Maria's heart felt warm, hopeful, and quietly full of life. As winter deepened, the small town remained wrapped in a quiet, sparkling layer of snow. Each morning, Maria awoke to the soft glow of sunlight bouncing off the frost-covered windows. Her home felt warmer than ever, not just because of the crackling fire in the hearth, but because of the quiet happiness that had begun to grow in her heart. The days with Thomas had become the highlights of her weeks, and she looked forward to each visit with gentle excitement and curiosity about what new moments they might share. One chilly morning, Thomas arrived with a small basket of supplies for a winter picnic. Maria's eyes lit up with delight at the thought of another adventure, and she quickly helped him bring the basket inside. They prepared a warm lunch together, wrapping sandwiches and packing hot cocoa, blankets, and even a few small lanterns to light their way. Maria admired Thomas' careful attention to detail and his thoughtfulness in making sure everything was ready for the day. She felt a sense of gratitude and joy. Simple gestures like these had begun to mean so much to her. After finishing their preparations, they bundled up and stepped into the bright winter morning. The air was crisp, and snowflakes drifted softly around them, sparkling in the sunlight. As they walked toward a nearby hill, Thomas held the blanket and basket, while Maria helped guide the way, laughing whenever they slipped slightly on the ice-covered paths. They reached the hilltop, which offered a quiet view of the town below and the surrounding fields blanketed in snow. The view was peaceful and breathtaking, and Maria felt a thrill of happiness as she gazed at the winter landscape. They spread the blanket and unpacked the small feast they had brought. The hot cocoa warmed their hands, and the simple food tasted even better in the fresh winter air. As they ate, they talked about memories from past winters, the simple joys of snowball fights, and the beauty of quiet mornings like this one. Maria shared stories from her childhood, of sledding with her siblings and helping her parents with winter chores, while Thomas spoke of growing up on the farm, helping care for the animals even in the coldest weather. Their conversation flowed naturally, full of laughter, reflection, and quiet appreciation for the peaceful day around them. After their picnic, Thomas suggested they take a walk through the nearby woods, where the snow had formed a soft, sparkling carpet on the ground. Maria agreed, eager to explore more. As they walked, they noticed animal tracks, listened to the distant calls of birds, and admired the way the sun filtered through the bare branches of the trees. The woods were quiet and serene, and the snow seemed to soften every sound. Maria realized that in these moments she felt completely at ease, comfortable in a way she hadn't felt in many years. Thomas' presence added a sense of security and calm, making even the simplest walk feel special. While walking, they came across a small frozen stream. The water beneath the ice shimmered faintly, and the surrounding snow sparkled like tiny diamonds. Thomas helped Maria carefully step over the icy patches, and they paused to enjoy the beauty of the scene. Maria felt a quiet sense of wonder, realizing that life's simple moments, shared with someone who cared, could hold so much meaning. She noticed the gentle way Thomas treated her, always patient and considerate, and she felt warmth spread through her heart. These moments were teaching her that happiness often comes from the quiet, everyday experiences shared with those who truly understand you. As the afternoon turned to evening, they returned to Maria's house. The sunset cast a golden glow through the windows, filling the room with light. Maria prepared a simple dinner while Thomas helped tidy up, and together they enjoyed the routine of domestic life. It was peaceful, ordinary, yet full of meaning. They shared laughter over small mishaps in the kitchen, stories about animals and neighbors, and reflections on the day's beauty. Maria realized that these small shared experiences had strengthened their bond, creating trust and understanding in ways that were far more valuable than any grand event could. After dinner, they settled by the fire. The flames flickered, casting shadows on the walls, and the room felt warm and inviting. Maria shared more of her family photo albums and stories from her past, and Thomas reciprocated, opening up about his hopes, dreams, and experiences. They spoke of simple joys, of the value of honesty, patience, and kindness, and of the little things that make life meaningful. Maria felt a quiet sense of comfort and safety, knowing that she could share her thoughts and feelings openly, and that Thomas genuinely listened and understood. The night deepened, and outside, the snow continued to fall gently. Maria and Thomas sat quietly, sipping warm tea and enjoying the simple pleasure of being together. The silence was not empty. It was filled with trust, care, and the shared understanding that they had become an important part of each other's lives. Maria realized that her life had been quietly transformed, not by dramatic events or sudden changes, but by the slow, steady presence of someone who truly cared. Thomas' companionship had brought her warmth, joy, and a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. Before leaving that night, Thomas helped Maria tidy up and walked her to the doorway. They exchanged a friendly, warm hug, a gesture full of trust and affection. Maria felt a gentle happiness settle in her chest. She closed the door slowly, feeling a quiet excitement for the days to come and a sense of gratitude for the connection that had blossomed between them. She reflected on the journey of the past few weeks, realizing that life's most meaningful moments often come from simple acts of kindness, shared laughter, and companionship. That night, Maria went to bed feeling content and fulfilled. The snow outside continued to fall, covering the town in a soft, peaceful blanket. Inside, the warmth of her home and the quiet joy in her heart made her feel secure and happy. She thought about the shared walks, the laughter, the meals, and the quiet conversations that had become part of her daily life. Each memory brought a smile to her face, and she knew that her life had been enriched in ways she had never expected. As she drifted off to sleep, Maria felt a sense of hope and anticipation for the future. She understood that happiness could grow slowly, nurtured by shared moments, understanding, and trust. The bond she had developed with Thomas was a reminder that meaningful connections could bring light and warmth into even the quietest, simplest life. Outside, the snow continued to fall silently, and inside, Maria's heart was full, calm, and quietly joyful, ready for the new days and experiences that awaited her. The weeks that followed continued in this peaceful rhythm. Maria and Thomas spent more time together, each moment strengthening their bond. They walked, shared meals, told stories, and discovered the joy of ordinary life experienced with someone who truly cared. Maria realized that her happiness had grown not from grand gestures, but from small acts of kindness, companionship, and understanding. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, knowing that she had found someone who valued her presence, respected her thoughts, and shared her love for life's simple pleasures. By the end of the winter, Maria felt a profound change in her life. Her days were no longer lonely or quiet. They were filled with warmth, laughter, and gentle companionship. She looked forward to each new day with Thomas, knowing that the trust, kindness, and shared experiences they had built would continue to grow. Life had become richer, more meaningful, and more joyful, not because of extraordinary events, but because of the quiet, steady presence of a caring friend who had become an important part of her world. Maria finally understood that happiness is not measured by grand celebrations or dramatic moments, but by the consistency of small, heartfelt gestures and the companionship of someone who understands and respects you. As the last snow of winter fell, blanketing the town in peace, Maria felt ready for whatever the future might bring, confident that she was not alone, and grateful for the quiet magic of love, trust, and friendship that had entered her life.